all of the billionaires read books. Here's why you should too. So I started reading books since I was very young, probably like 14 years old, and I started reading books back to back to back to back. Obviously, I've had some inconsistencies, but lately I was very consistent with it. In the last 4 months of 2024, I've actually read more than 14 books, which is quite awesome. Also, I want to say that actually books have helped me through so many periods of my life that I would say there is no way that I could have just survived them without the books. And I'm not only going to give you, so what I promise with this is not only I'm going to give you my experience with the books and the books that I read and recommendation and this and that. You can find that everywhere. But also I'm going to gather to you a lot of the information from the people that are extremely more important than me, extremely more successful than me, etc., that actually have said some things about these topics. And I'm going to go through them one by one, as well as I'm going to give examples from my own personal life. It's not as if I'm superior, but I've had so many tough lives that I'm going to, so many tough moments that I'm going to share with you, that the solvable solution was actually through reading books. The way that I'm going to do it, I'm going to go through the points. I'm going to go through the experiences and examples, as well as I'm going to give some recommendations regarding into different fields of life when it comes to each point, as well as I'm also going to mention a lot of the people that you actually respect and love throughout the process. Because as I said, this introduction, it only makes sense for me to actually begin with Elon Musk. So Elon Musk is one of the greatest people on the planet, like it or not, right? He's obviously extremely successful. He owns SpaceX, which is the number one. It's the number one rocket launch company in the world, as well as he has Tesla. He also has Neuralink. He has the Boring Company. He has Twitter, or X now. So all of these are actually combined to this individual. Once you read his biography by Robert Isaac, while I was reading, one of the most fascinating things is that how Elon Musk actually reads a lot. He reads so often that they say his sister described him when he was young that he can read books for the entire day. It's like for 24 hours, just reads and eats and sleep. And that's interesting because he's the richest man in the world. He's probably the most powerful man in the world. He's extremely successful in any realm of human endeavor. And also he reads books all the time. Now, he's not as reading books a lot of the time as he was when he was a kid, obviously, but he still reads books. Actually, a lot of the times he posts on his Twitter X account, he uploads about some books that he reads about certain topics that he recommends people to read them. Actually, SpaceX idea, it was about a book. It was from a book. It's called The Hitchhiking into the Universe. It's a very famous story. I actually read it, and there was a quote that you have to ask the questions with the answers that is the universe. He has this famous podcast clip actually about it. And from there, he got the idea of like SpaceX and going to Mars and making humans multi-planetary species, which is pretty much right now, it's one of the most famous, the most powerful, inspirational visions in the world. And it was based on a book. Obviously, there's so many stories about Elon Musk. It's like when he was young, and also in his adulthood, early adulthood, and also his advanced adulthood. I just don't want to spend too much time with him because I've had so many things. If you think Elon Musk is crazy, wait till you see the others. Now, I'm going to balance it a little bit. I'm going to talk about personal thing here. So one of the most important personal things that I had, it was an analysis that I did. So if you're not an analytical person, or if you are an analytical person, this will serve you quite perfectly. So I've made an analysis about myself for about, at the time it was 30 months. Now it's way more. It's more like, it's crazy. It's a lot. It's probably like 36 or 40 months, or probably more. I guess it's more. But what matters is that I've made an analysis of myself, tracking a lot of the habits of my life. So 26 aspects. It's like everything that you can think of that actually affects human life. I've wrote it down and I tracked it for all that period, for a lot of years, right? And what I found out is that every moment when I had sort of like the peak, like the best version of myself, that, I was always reading books. And I just found it fascinating. Like, okay, why? Because I've had periods when I said, well, I just know this topic well and I don't want to just study a lot. And also I've had this argument where like, I just want to watch YouTube videos because the advanced things, like the new era. We don't have books anymore, but we have videos and audio. But it's not, because you have access to old knowledge. I'm going to give examples later on. I'm going to give great examples later on, if being honest. It's like the best things that happens in your life is that. So the best thing that happened in my life, definitely. Or one of the best, to be realistic. So there's this guy, I absolutely forgot his name. He's like a YouTube motivational guru or whatever. He's not a guru, but he's self-help type videos, how to make money, whatever. And he says that, well, with YouTube, you can actually access a lot of knowledge, but with books, you can actually access the knowledge of the old days. It's pretty true, because one of the best books that I've read in my life is The Richest Man in Babylon is actually quite great. But what I want to talk about is the Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich is a great book. It's an awesome book. Actually, it's so good that I've read the other books that are written by the same author, as well as I have reread the book multiple times. It's so good, and in very short period of time span, I've reread it a lot of times. So Napoleon Hill have wrote this book many decades ago. We're talking the man died about in the 70s. So how can you access that? There's no YouTube videos on what he was talking about, how he actually studied 25,000 people that, from the richest people in the world to not. And also he was hired by the richest man in the world at the time, which is Robert Carnegie. And he was studying all of these guys, Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, right? All of these great names. And you're like, okay, how can I access that? The only way to access it is actually to go back and read books. But also, more than that, to me, is actually in books you find more knowledge in a better way. Because when you think about it, there is Alex Hormozi, who's a content creator. He's mainly a businessman and a business owner. He's a business owner. He has all of these companies. He was the owner of Gym Launch. He's also the owner of Acquisition.com. But more than that, I watched his videos on YouTube, right? I didn't listen to his podcast, but it's quite the same thing. But when I read his books, it was different. It was absolutely extremely different, because there's just way more knowledge in just a better presentable way. And if if someone doesn't want to hear this, or they just don't want to be convinced, it's better to just change the sources of information that you have, because probably that will make your memory better. If you just consume all of it as a visual and you have all of this visual overload information, maybe if you just read it, it will be a better memorizing technique for you. Anyway, it can be all of this and it can be none, right? It can be just one of them, and one of them is enough. So I'm going to actually move on to a way more important point, which is being the best version of myself, and being the best version of yourself, and being the best version of anyone. And give an example. I'm going to give the example of this guy right here. Right? He in this picture, he's headless. He doesn't have a head because I don't want to put his face. But his name is Patrick Bet-David. He's a big business owner. He had a insurance company, and now he has one of the most respected entertainment companies or social media marketing companies in the world. His name is Patrick Bet-David, and he also has shares in Yankees. He's pretty good. So this guy talks about in his book, and I'm pretty sure in some of his podcasts as well, he talks about it very clearly. He says, I was in a party, and there's a billionaire that came to me, and I just was asking about is like, what makes you different? And he says, learning. He says, you have to read books. And you see all these people in here are actually reading books, but the moment they stop, you stop growing. You decline. You don't even maintain, you decline. You crash, pretty much. And that's interesting, That's interesting. And also, just don't take it from me, right? Take it from Patrick Bet David. He has a website of 100 books that he recommends to people. So he at least read 100 books, 100%, right? And he also wrote a book. I'm pretty sure too. I read his book of Choose Your Enemies Wisely. He has also another book, which is... He's also this other book, which is Your Next 5 Move. It's the last book he has. So I didn't actually read it. So what I'm talking about here, what I'm making actually clear is that all of the most important people actually talk about learning and education and, reading books specifically. I'm going to actually give even more important knowledge in here, which makes it even better. At least that's in my opinion. So once you look at one of the books I actually read, which is The Richest Man in Babylon, they always talk about the knowledge and education and this and that. One of the main arguments against reading is it's impractical, which is actually great. It's the best thing you can talk about books. The best argument about book nerds is like it's impractical. And that's why I'm not a book nerd. I don't like that. I hate being impractical. What I love is being practical. So while reading the 4-Hour Workweek, one of the most important, most famous, respected entrepreneurship books of all time by Jim, whatever, something. It's Tim, I don't know. But it's the 4-Hour Workweek. There's a lot of challenges in there, and it's hard. There's a lot of actually hard challenges. And some of them are simple. It's like when you walk, you have to stare at someone in the eye for like 2 days or something. I don't know. But that was easy. I've already done that. I was doing that even without the challenge. There's also some other stuff, etc. So one of the challenges was you have to go to 2 girls and ask them for their numbers in 2 days straight. So like today 2 girls, tomorrow 2 girls. And I have just never done that. Probably I've done it once in my life when I was very young, which was a challenge as well. And I was like 10 and the girl was like 40 or something. So it was just like a challenge. But this time I have to go there. But he talks about it and he says it's not about actually asking the girl. It's about getting used to asking. Right? And for me, because I had just so big of a barrier in terms of girls, because I always upgrade myself, when it comes to men, I'm very confrontational. I just go all in. I'm like, hey, you, what up? Whatever. We do this, and it just clicks, man. But when it comes to girls, I always fumbled. It's like I didn't fumble, but I didn't have that touch in me that I have with men. It's like with men, it's like I'm used to that. I don't care, whatever. But I noticed that it was affecting me in my business and my life and my career. So I changed it a bit. I decided to change it because as an example, I remember in the old days I was filming videos outside of the house and it needed strangers to film with you. I never went to a girl, ever. I was always going to men. The only time I went to a girl was just because my friend said so. And he was like a great guy, and he still is. So I had to confront my fear, and I actually did that. But it took me 6 months, which is crazy. Because I was like, maybe I can do it, but I don't want to. It's all excuses. But at one time, it was one of those ideas, is like, what's the hardest thing I can actually do? Or what's something that I was delaying? Or I don't know which was it. But it was just the idea of like 6 months. I've done everything else in the book but that. So I took 2 days. I didn't took 2 days. It took like 40 minutes a day or some shit, or 30 minutes or an hour, whatever. It's like I biked for a very long time, went to a market, supermarket, and I asked 2 girls, come back, 2 girls, not other. And it was very scared. I'm telling you, I was so scared. I didn't want to be dead, but I really was scared. The only time I was this scared, it was when I made my first Instagram stories. When I was talking on the Instagram story, it was like years ago, right? It was like 4 or 5 years ago. And a meeting was very excited. It was fear, but you sort of transform it into excitement. That was this, because my head was like, maybe she will just call the police on me, and then everybody will come out after me. And I'm like, okay, so what's the escape plan? I'm gonna run, and I'm gonna make my bike in an area where I can access it easily. My brain was working, but I understood that this is just not gonna happen. Like, he's gonna say no, just as if a girl comes to me and is like, I want your number, whatever, blah blah blah, some bullshit. I'll say no. I'll say sure. It's just two things, right? And the same thing for them. And that's what I wanted to understand, is like, girls and men are actually the same. And with business, that helps me more. So like, deal with them better, right? Deal with girls better. And men, obviously, I deal with them quite perfect. And it's kind of like that. So books are not impractical, are actually very practical. And that depends on the book you read, as well as you. Like, are you going to practice what you've read? It's like this. Probably most people will just skip it. For me, I didn't. And I felt awesome afterwards, by the way. I felt extremely awesome, because I was scared of it to death. It took balls to do that. Like, actual real balls to do that. Like, I've never done such thing like this. I have never done it. And it was very hard. And it's just different type of hard. Like, there's hard life, and there's hard this bullshit that just gives you crazy upgrades in your character. So, and this is the power of books. It just tells you some shit that you never, like, who will ever say is like, go to two girls and tell them, because there's a script you say is like, hey, I'm going to my friend. Because when you say I'm going to my friends, it doesn't seem like you're a freak and you actually have social life and you're a friend. And you're not like some crazy. I'm actually going to a friend, and I saw you, and I think you're drop dead gorgeous, and I'll beat myself up tonight if I don't get your number, or some shit like that. I didn't say it exactly like this, but it was very similar. So when you say it like this, the damages are very low, obviously. His name is Tim Ferry, the author of the book. So he made it very unrisky to say it. Obviously, your brain sort of like thinks. That's what the brain does, except if you control them. I control my brain. And I turn fear into excitement. One of the other things that I actually find very interesting is from the book The Richest Man in Babylon, one of the greatest books, drop, period. And he was actually reading this book the first time. I read it crazy many times. I just read it yesterday. Not the entirety, but I was sort of like proceeding with it. And he just talks about some interesting facts. And it's just different from the other self-help books. It's like how to make money. They just change it, and it feels so grounded. It's awesome, right? It feels as if someone who's. It feels as if the difference between watching Marvel movies and watching the Vikings. The Vikings is just grounded, but the Marvel is like this crazy stuff, and it felt like that. Yeah. So I think the most important thing that I would actually say ever is reading books is extremely important. And I realized it the first time when I did the analysis of 36 months of my life. I realized that actually the best version of myself always reads books. But I didn't actually quite realize that except when I actually did the work and I actually practiced and did read the books. And it was the best 6 months of my life. Not in terms of like traveling. You see, when people say the best 6 months of my life, it means traveling. No, it means the best version of my life. It was, I was working, I was social life, I was training, I was this, there was that. And it just ended, like the 6 months just ended like 1 month ago, or 1 month and something, 1 month and 1 week, or like 5 weeks. But the point is, what I'm making is it's actually extremely important. And every successful person in the world actually read some sort of a book. McGregor read the Law of Attraction. I didn't read it. And also the self-help people like Alex Hormozi, Iman Gadzhi, I'm pretty sure Grant Cardone. I'm pretty sure like he talks about it. I don't know him actually. I don't watch him. I have no clue who he is. Andrew Tate doesn't talk about it. There is, but he's Tristan Tate talks about it, but it's kind of weird. I don't like them when they talk about books. It's not like I don't like them, but they're not the best to talk about books. They're better talking about training. There's also some other people I just don't remember them because I don't watch a lot, right? Andy Elliott is another one. It's like you have to read books. Patrick Bet-David, I totally forgot the guy. Yeah, so it's actually important. Also, as I said, McGregor has read The Law of Attraction. You know, and there's a reason why you see all of these great people actually making and writing books. David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me. Very great, interesting book about suffering and how you actually survive the pain. I've read it, or at least I'm pretty sure I didn't finish it. But it's kind of different type of books. It's a raw and just unhinged raw. And it's just interesting. But yeah. So there is a reason why books exist, and there is a reason why all of these billionaires actually read books. And as I promised, now you know why or how you actually read the books, and you know all of the examples that I've given you from my personal life, from difficulties and hardships, and also the best version of myself, as well as all of these great inspirational, most important people in the world and their take and what they've said and what they do, which is more important about actually reading books. So exactly as I promised. Now, subscribe.